And let's get to the non-falterall fodder that we have going on this week. The Julio Jones situation, it's I believe, going to culminate in something next Wednesday. That's when the cap charge for trading Julio Jones would plummet to a point where it's manageable for the Falcons to do it. You wrote back the Monday before the draft that that's the direction where this is heading. Peter, I'm having a hard time identifying who's interested in him. Sims has said all week that he's interested in the Titans and the Patriots. There was a report yesterday from Diana Russini of ESPN, which was then broadcast by the Falcons website, that the Falcons have an offer of a first-round pick on the table for Julio Jones. My reaction to that is, if they have it, why the hell haven't they accepted it yet? And I'd love to know how much of his salary they have to pay to get a first-round pick. He's due to make $15.3 million fully guaranteed. But what's your current thought on where this all stands and where this is all heading?
Well, I would be surprised if they had a first-round pick on the table for Julio Jones, because what you just said is right. That trade would be done right now if they had a first-round pick on the table for Julio Jones. I doubt they're going to get a first-round pick. Now, they might, and they also might get a 2 that could become a 1 with performance-related bonuses, or a 2 that could become a 1 in an easier fashion, with less sort of performance-related bonuses, but it wouldn't be for a couple of years. I think they're probably going to end up getting a 2 next year. And I just think that, and look, I was with, the brain trust of the Falcons on draft night, okay? So I got the impression from Terry Fontenot and from Arthur Smith, the general manager and coach, that they were going to be solid, that they needed a solid 2 to get this thing done. And obviously they wanted a 1, and who knows, maybe someone will pay them a 1. But at the end of the day, I think it's more likely it's going to be a 2 without any financial tentacles. In other words, obviously, if you're a team out there and you're trading for a guy who's owed $38 million over the next 3 seasons, if you're trading for that guy, you want, and he only played 9 games last year, he doesn't practice much anymore. If that is what you want, you're not going to pay any of his salary going forward. And the Falcons, I believe, don't want to pay any of his salary or any of his bonus money going forward more than they already have to pay contractually.
The odds have moved dramatically this week. PointsBet now has New England as the favorite at plus 150, Tennessee plus 200. They weren't even in the top 3, I believe, earlier this week, but it seems to be coalescing around those 2 teams. There was a report last weekend that the Patriots have had internal discussions about Julio Jones, and I usually react to those reports by saying, well, they're not going to move then, because if they really wanted him, we wouldn't know about it. Isn't that how it goes with the Patriots? We had no idea they were having internal discussions about Cam Newton until they signed Cam Newton. So maybe those internal discussions led to the conclusion that this doesn't fit where we currently are, and we've upgraded our weapons sufficiently that we don't want or need to make this investment. And, oh, by the way, we were just burned a couple of years ago by sending a second-round pick to the Falcons for a receiver. Not that Mohamed Sanu is in the class of Julio Jones. And I really do think, Peter, that second-rounder the Falcons got for Mohamed Sanu is an impediment here, because they want at least a 2, because they got a 2 for a lesser player at the same position.
Well, my first reaction when I heard that Patriots report that they have had internal discussions about Julio Jones, my reaction is, well, all 31 teams in the league would be horribly irresponsible. Any of the 30 other teams in the league would be irresponsible if they hadn't had internal discussions. Who sees that a Hall of Fame wide receiver with some goodness left in his career, who would look at that and say, no, we have no interest even in discussing it? I mean, it's preposterous. So I believe most teams have at least discussed it. And look, I think that at the end of the day, New England makes an awful lot of sense, Mike. It makes a lot of sense because Bill Belichick has shown time and again that he's not afraid of, you go back to Randy Moss in 2007, where everybody was staying away from Randy Moss, and he said, I'll take Randy Moss. And so to me, I think the Patriots really make the most sense. I have no idea if they're going to be the team or not. I don't know who the team is going to be. But, Mike, you said something early in this segment that you think there's a good chance that it happens by Wednesday. I don't know what day it's going to happen, but this trade's going to happen. Julio Jones is not going to be on the Atlanta Falcons. This trade is going to get done. And in my opinion, it's the best thing for everybody. It's the best thing for Julio Jones, who wants to find a new home. It's the best thing for the Atlanta Falcons, who need cap relief over the coming years. And this won't be the only move they're going to make. And I also think it's going to be a good thing for whoever gets him, because we see it. We saw him when he played last year. He is still a magnificent player. So to me, I think it's going to get done, and it's going to make sense for the trading team and for the acquiring team.
Yeah, you mentioned Randy Moss. The league thought he was washed up after his second season with the Raiders. The Patriots basically stole him for a fourth-round pick, and he ended up having one of the all-time great receiving seasons in 2007 at the age of 30. You mentioned that Julio Jones wants out. We hadn't heard from him until Shannon Sharp committed state and federal wiretapping violations earlier this week by putting him on the air without telling him he was on the air, and he said, I'm out of there, and the Falcons were livid about that. That's one of the reasons why I don't think the Falcons are sitting on a one. Why be upset about your trade leverage being affected by Julio Jones' wishes being broadcast to the world if you're already sitting on an acceptable offer and you're just waiting for something better? If you got a first-round pick in pocket, who cares what Julio Jones says? You know this is a done deal, and if someone else comes along, that's your leverage. What Julio's comments did, in my opinion, Peter, they took away the ability of the Falcons to have an effective negotiation with one team. Because if you're negotiating with one team and that team isn't giving you what you want, you can't say credibly, we'll just keep him. Because the response is going to be, okay, fine, go ahead and keep the guy who said, I'm out of there. So that changed the dynamic, and it also unlocked reporting on the reality that this has been percolating for a while, and unlike these quarterback situations where those players want out, we didn't know about this one. And, Mike, I also think it just shows the reality of trades in 2021. You have teams out there, I'm sure, that are asking Fontenot and Smith, say, listen, we'd love to give you a 2 for Julio Jones, but we need money at the following level to make this happen. And the Falcons, in that case, I'm pretty sure would rather just say, hey, listen, we're not giving him away and then paying part of the contract. And I think there have been other contracts that teams basically have taken a bite out of, in order to make it palatable for the acquiring team. And in this particular case, I think the Falcons are basically saying, absolutely no way we're going to do that. So I think that's part of this. I think the other part is, quite honestly, just this simple fact that the Atlanta Falcons love Julio Jones. The owner loves Julio Jones. And so this is one of those deals that, even though obviously now he wants out, and it's clear, it's on the table that this isn't just the Falcons doing this for cap relief. They'd probably like to do it too, because they don't want a guy in the first year of a new regime who doesn't want to be there. So I really think that it's going to go in the next week or so. It's going to get done. But I just think there are some modern parts of this trade, some modern tentacles that still have to play out a little bit. Yeah, because, again, back to the original item, the report from Thursday from ESPN that the Falcons have a first-round pick. If that's true, my guess would be whoever's offering that first-round pick, number one, expects to be pretty low in the round in 2022, and number two, quite possibly, if not likely, is expecting the Falcons to pick up a sizable chunk of the $15.3 million. Remember, when the Panthers unloaded Teddy Bridgewater onto the Broncos for a 6th-round pick, they're still paying $7 of $10 million guaranteed to Bridgewater this year. $7 million being paid by the Panthers to make that trade happen. So we'll see where he goes, what they get, and I think a very important factor as well, how much they pay.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.